Hi everyone, I'm Halynne. I'm a product manager at a hypergrowth startup in Southeast Asia. You know, I came from a non-technical background, and yet today I'm managing one of the most complex technical products in my company. Product manager interviews can be really difficult, especially if they're on a wide range of topics that you might not be so familiar with. Honestly, making up something on the spot almost never works. I've tried, but it wasn't good. It might even kill your chances of getting that PM interview that you've worked so hard for. So today, this video is going to tell you all about the 4 different kinds of question types that you will face in 99% of all product manager interviews, the hardest questions of the bunch, and how you might want to tackle them. Let's first understand the broad landscape of product manager questions. They would usually fall into 4 big buckets. Number 1, leadership. How are you able to interact and influence your stakeholders without being their boss? Number 2, execution. How are you able to quickly, smoothly, and effectively deliver a product? Number 3, strategy. What is your long-term vision? How do you optimize for long-term impact? Number 4, product, which is also the bread and butter of what being a product manager is. How are you able to design a high-quality product that solves the problems of your customers? Take a closer look. Did you realize that these are the skills that it takes to become a great product manager? Leadership. You gotta be really influential so that you can influence your stakeholders, get them all aligned so that you can move towards a common goal. Execution. How are you able to deliver your product within the timeline and also of a high quality? Strategy. Are you able to anticipate the future roadblocks and overcome them? And finally, some kick-ass product sense. We're going to talk about the hardest questions in each of these 4 buckets, share some sample answers, and discuss some tips and tricks on how we are able to answer these questions best. You gotta stay till the end because that's when I'm going to reveal the hardest question of all. Let's start with leadership questions. Leadership questions come in 4 types: communication, collaboration, personal mindsets, and mentoring. I find that the communication questions are the hardest because as a product manager, you are expected to communicate horizontally amongst your peers as well as with other departments, as well as vertically up and down the chain of command to your bosses or to your reports if you have any. It's usually on a disagreement or conflict. In this question, tell me about a time where you had to work with a peer who disagreed with you. How did you handle the conflict? It is a horizontal communication. Let's think about the framework. First, we'll talk about the situation, highlight the problem, think about solutions, what are the positive impacts that we've driven, and finally, the lessons that we've learned. First up on the situation, 15 seconds keeps it straight to the point. You can talk about your past work experience where you first joined the team and you were super eager to contribute and jump in with your ideas. However, now highlight the problem. What did you notice? You realized that there was a co-worker who kept interrupting you when you tried to speak and did not give you the necessary information for you to complete your important tasks. So this festered into a conflict. Let's dive straight into the solutions. Understand that the conflict is not just the fault of one person. It takes 2 hands to clap, and that's why a conflict arises because of differing opinions of one or more parties. Over here, reflect on your own behavior first, strategize on your next steps. Put your plan into action. After meeting your co-worker, you understood that your eagerness might have taken up too much time in the meetings because your co-worker had to explain to you, therefore slowing down the entire meeting. Reflect on this candid feedback. At the same time, make a commitment to change your behavior by being more attentive to this time you spend speaking in the meetings and ensuring that you will only speak up or contribute if you are sure that you had enough knowledge. At the same time, also show that you can influence your colleague to make changes in his behavior too. so that he will not cut you off in future discussions and share with you the necessary information. Now that you've explained the problem and the solution, you want to talk about the positive impact that you've driven. Because of your initiative and your reflection, you managed to influence your co-worker to change his behavior, while at the same time you were also changing your behavior. So because of that, you were able to catch up on the delays and finish the project on time. Now you want to end off with kind of a moral of a story or a lesson that you learned. Other than being open to feedback, you also want to keep your contributions very quick and to the point so you don't beat around the bush. It also shows that you're somebody who is a quick problem solver because you are able to nip the problem in the bud before they become big and faster. Next, let's talk about execution. Execution questions come in 3 types: goal setting and metric definition, metric change, and trade-offs. I feel that the metric change questions are a bit more challenging because there seems to be an unlimited number of reasons why a certain metric could change. You would need to really brainstorm on the spot and break down systematically on what the root cause is. For example, if we look at this question, YouTube traffic went down by 5%, how would you report this to the senior management? Firstly, define the metric, find the root cause, and conclude. Define the metric. What exactly does traffic mean? Is it impacting all the user segments? Also, historically, when did the dip start? So after talking to the interviewer, you realize that it's the average time spent watching per session down 5%. And it's a month-on-month metric, worldwide and on mobile only. Let's brainstorm on the potential root causes. Internally, it could be due to data accuracy, context, access to the product changes, and product quality. Externally, it could be user habits, referrals, competition, or even society. Now you want to analyze step by step. The first root cause, data accuracy. Was it because the reporting tool was broken? Or something else? And you realize after your talk with the interviewer that data accuracy is not the root cause. Change to the next factor. Was it because of context? Is it because it's a seasonal fall? And you realize that nope, that's not the root cause either. Try the third one. Was it because of product change? Oh, yeah, perhaps after you realize that it was due to a change in the user interface. And then you want to narrow it down further. What exactly changed? Oh, it was because the send video to device button was made 2 times larger, whereas the full screen button was halved. Send video to device button can also be used to play a video on another device. After that, nail down the product changes. Are there metrics to back it up? Was there a change in the frequency for the send video to device and full screen buttons being used? Then you can conceptualize. Having deep user empathy, you might think that, oh, it might be because mobile users might have a harder time tapping the full screen now that it's much smaller, and end up tapping the send video to device button instead because it's now 2 times larger. Linking it back to the impact. Because of that, sending video to device would end the session and decrease the average time per session. Also, it might frustrate users and cause them to end their session early. And after speaking to the interviewer, you realize that this is really one of the main reasons. For your conclusion, you might want to say that the time spent watching per session dropped by 5% month on month because of a change in user interface for the video player, causing the users to end their session early. I make videos every week about product manager transitions, real product manager stories, and tech careers. So if you're interested, please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and let me know in the comments below, what was the hardest product manager question that you've ever seen? Next, strategy. What I really mean is vision, roadmaps, business models, goal setting, objectives, and key results. I find that the business model questions are the most challenging. There are just so many business models that you can discuss and analyze. For this question, how would you turn Facebook events around? First, set the business objective of Facebook events, what its solution is, and then conclude. Firstly, set the business objective. What exactly does it mean to turn Facebook events around? What is suffering? Is it engagement? Is it revenue? Or is it a whole host of other factors? What does it look like for a successful turnaround? For example, imagine in your conversation with the interviewer, you realize that it's the lack of engagement. Not just one kind of engagement, but the entire funnel. When you think about your solution, you must think about the different levels of engagement, from awareness to basic engagement, and then finally to deep engagement. All of them require different solutions. Awareness, basic engagement, and deep engagement. For deep engagement, for example, you might want to propose tips for creating more engaging event posts, predict or even auto-populate the events based on past behavior, or maybe streaming options such as Facebook Live. What sets a good answer apart is when you're able to discuss trade-offs. By having a new feature, what are you giving up? For example, if you're having an event creation tip, how do you make sure that it adds value instead of cluttering and becoming just another new user interface element? Or for example, when you're predicting or auto-populating these events, there might be edge cases that you need to consider. For example, when a user does not want to be reminded to create an event. And finally, for streaming, you might be cannibalizing engagement from another part of the product. When you conclude after discussing with the interviewer, you can say that the event creation tip might be the most promising option because it targets the need to increase engagement. Finally, we have the product questions. What I mean is user insights, data insights, analytical questions, technical skills, product and design sense. No surprises here. For people with a non-technical background, technical questions are the hardest. Let's take a look at one of them. How would you design a method to identify if a number is prime? Firstly, clarify what a prime number is. Present a solution. Finally, discuss your method. Clarify. You need to understand what exactly makes a number prime. It has to be a whole number that is greater than 1, and will have a remainder if it's divided by any other whole number that is between 1 and itself excluded. Solution. Let's try with an example. For example, 7. It's greater than 1, and if you divide 7 by 1 all the way to 6, it will produce an answer that has a remainder. Then propose a general solution that translates these conditions into an algorithm. I won't go into detail now, but I'm just going to flash through to let you take a look. And finally, when you are confident with your solution, test your solution on an easy number, like 10. Make sure that it returns the correct response. Be careful of edge cases, for example, like non-integer and negative numbers. You might also want to condense your algorithm further by using a for loop. Honestly, nobody really expects you to be as technically competent as your engineers, your data scientists, your designers. But at the end of the day, you need to be at least technically fluent. So it would be a great idea for you to spend at least a month or so, depending on the complexity of the product that you're handling, to prepare for such technical questions that may arise. There you have it, the 4 hardest questions for a non-technical person in a product manager interview. Here's a summary table of everything that we've gone through today. Hope you found today's video useful. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below on the hardest question that you have ever seen in a product manager interview. See you next week!